No one saw it coming. Not the security, not the crowd of thousands, and certainly not Kim Seokjin. But the most shocking detail wasn't just that a global rock icon had appeared unannounced at a BTS concert. It was where he appeared, how he appeared, and most of all, who saw him first. The question now reverberating across global fan communities: did Chris Martin really slip into the crowd of armies without a single spotlight trailing him? This surreal moment unfolded at the O2 Arena in London, during one of the most emotionally charged nights of BTS's ongoing concert series. While fans were fully absorbed in the magnetic energy of Jin's solo performance, a subtle wave of commotion stirred in the upper seating section. Just a spark of awareness that began spreading like wildfire. It wasn't until Jin, mid-performance, visibly paused and squinted into the darkness of the crowd, his hand raised to his forehead like a visor, that the magnitude of what was happening became undeniable. In an instant that seemed to paralyze the stage and the stadium alike, Jin grabbed a pair of golden binoculars from a nearby crew member. He scanned the crowd, visibly puzzled, almost disbelieving. What could make an artist of his caliber, in the middle of a high-production show, freeze on stage in confusion? That question was answered seconds later, as fans in the crowd began pointing and screaming toward a very specific section of the arena. IT was there, among a sea of glowing army bombs and handheld banners. That one sign stood out. "Chris Martin is here." It read in bold black letters, flanked by cartoonish BT21 characters. The camera cut to it immediately. The arena erupted. And yet, the man in question remained nearly undetectable, dressed in a plain shirt, wearing no identifying accessories, no security entourage, just there for Jin, whose relationship with Chris Martin and Coldplay has been well documented through collaborations like My Universe. The sight seemed too surreal to register instantly. His eyes widened. His stance faltered. He smiled, yes, but it was the kind of smile that carries the weight of 1,000 questions. Was this real? Was it a coincidence? Or was something much larger being orchestrated behind the scenes? The presence of Chris Martin, if indeed confirmed by multiple witnesses, which it appears to be, isn't merely a celebrity attending another celebrity's show. It's symbolic. It signals a deeper layer of mutual respect, a gesture that speaks louder than any formal statement could. But why in silence? Why without announcement? Without spotlight? Without invitation to the stage? According to multiple fan accounts and camera angles analyzed after the concert, Chris Martin was spotted arriving quietly moments before Jin's performance began. He was accompanied not by managers or staff, but by a handful of fans who appeared equally stunned to see him. He moved through the crowd like any ordinary guest, occasionally nodding to fans who recognized him, but never drawing attention to himself. If this was planned, it was executed with surgical precision. If it wasn't, it becomes even more legendary. The reactions online have been predictably explosive. Social media platforms flooded with side-by-side footage, Jin's stun gaze from the stage, and grainy yet unmistakable clips of Chris Martin weaving through the arena crowd. Fans across continents are now dissecting every second of the moment. Did Jin know? Was this a reunion? A secret cameo? Or was it simply one artist showing quiet respect to another? This raises questions that transcend fan theories and speculation. Why would a world-class artist like Chris Martin choose anonymity over applause? Why didn't he make his way to the stage, even briefly? And most importantly, how did this brief moment create such a powerful emotional reaction from both the crowd and Jin himself? What makes this incident even more compelling is the lack of official acknowledgement. No on-stage mention, no live shout-out, no follow-up tweet, just silence, paired with evidence that's hard to deny. And that silence is exactly what's amplifying the intensity of this moment. In a world where celebrity interactions are usually hyper-publicized, this was the opposite. Intimate, unscripted, and infinitely more powerful. Observers are now analyzing Jin's expressions throughout the remainder of his performance. There's a clear shift, an added emotional weight in his voice, a more intense connection in his gaze toward the crowd. It's as though the gravity of the moment changed something in him. Not in a performative way, but deeply personal. Fans have noted that after the sighting, Jin took an unusually long pause before beginning his next song. He smiled again, but this time almost bittersweet. This isn't just a case of celebrity spotting. It's about presence, timing, and the power of silent solidarity. For fans who followed both Coldplay and BTS, the shared moments between Jin and Chris Martin already hold historical value. Their collaboration was not just musical, it was deeply emotional, rooted in mutual admiration and creative alignment. To see that connection resurface in such an unexpected, unspoken way raises profound questions. Was this a farewell? A promise of future collaborations? Or was it simply the quiet act of support from one artist to another, with no cameras, no press, and no agenda? As the video clips circulate and theories abound, one thing remains certain. Jin didn't expect to see Chris Martin that night, and that moment of honest disbelief, captured in his frozen posture and glassy eyes, has already carved itself into ARMY history. It was a rare crack in the controlled spectacle of a global stadium concert, revealing something raw, real, and unforgettable. Theories continue to grow. Some believe this was a prelude to a yet unannounced collaboration. Others argue it was a personal gesture, Martin attending as a friend, not a performer. Either way, the timing feels deliberate. With Jin recently returning to the stage and Coldplay in the middle of their own worldwide tour cycle, the possibility of a joint moment cannot be dismissed. But perhaps that's the point. Perhaps it wasn't meant to be explained, confirmed, or scheduled. Perhaps it was enough that it simply happened, that in a moment when no one was expecting it, one of the biggest stars in the world stood anonymously among fans to watch another perform.
No entouraje, no announcement.
No front row spotlight, just presence. This event, though only lasting moments, has ignited conversations about authenticity, humility, and the unseen bonds between artists. It reminded fans, if only briefly, that behind the lights, fame, and production, there are still moments of quiet humanity. Jin's reaction, raw and unfiltered, mirrored the shock felt by every fan who turned around and realized who was standing beside them. And now, with silence from both artists and no confirmation expected soon, the world is left with one question. What really happened at the O2 Arena that night? And will it ever happen again? Stay with us. This story isn't finished. Not even close. The days following the O2 Arena concert have only deepened the mystery. Fan-recorded videos have emerged from multiple angles, each confirming the same narrative. Chris Martin was indeed present among the crowd, unguarded, unannounced, and almost unnoticed, until Jin saw him point. One particular video clip, now viral, shows a fan shouting, "He's really here," moments before the camera pans to a man in a white shirt surrounded by stunned armies. The security personnel around him are not Coldplay's nor BTS's. Their venue staff clearly caught off guard. The man in the frame waves subtly and disappears into the crowd just as quickly as he appeared. What remains undeniable is the effect this had on Jin. The atmosphere shifted. The energy of the arena turned electric, not just from the music, but from the sheer gravity of what had just occurred. And Jin, usually composed, meticulous, unwavering in his delivery, suddenly became intensely human. His smile trembled. His eyes flicked back and forth, as if confirming to himself what he'd just seen. And when he spoke to the crowd again, his voice held a softness not heard in prior shows. Why did this affect him so deeply? Was it personal? Was it professional? Or was it something more profound? An unspoken recognition between two artists who have already shared something historic. During the astronaut performance, fans noted that Jin's voice cracked, ever so slightly, during a key verse. The stadium, usually echoing with synchronized chants, fell almost respectfully silent. No one wanted to interrupt the weight of that moment. For a song co-written with Chris Martin, it was impossible to ignore the symbolism of performing it in front of the very person who helped craft it, without warning, without planning, and without the safety net of preparation. In the days since, major fan accounts have posted high-resolution stills that appear to clearly show Martin in the crowd. While neither Coldplay nor BTS's management has issued any formal comment, those present insist there is no doubt. The man in the footage, in the photos, in the gasps of armies, was Chris Martin, but the silence speaks louder than any confirmation could. If this moment had been manufactured for publicity, there would have been an official camera, a planned cue, a mic handoff, or even a single word on stage. There was none. Instead, the moment now lives in fragments, fan-shot, shaky, breathless, and all the more powerful because of it. This sudden appearance also reopens a broader question among global fans. What is the true depth of the connection between Jin and Chris Martin? While their collaboration on My Universe was framed as a moment of creative partnership, it is now clear that there may be far more to the story than what was shared publicly. Some fans believe that Martin's appearance was a deeply personal gesture, a sign of solidarity during a critical phase in Jin's artistic return. Others see it as a signal, a quiet teaser of a larger reunion or future collaboration. The absence of any formal acknowledgement has only fueled these speculations. More than anything, though, this incident has reminded fans why they fell in love with Jin in the first place. His rawness, his openness, his inability to mask honest emotions on stage.
He didn't act.
He didn't perform his surprise. He was surprised. And in that genuine reaction, audiences saw something that transcended the concert. The truth that's rare in the spectacle-driven world of global music for a moment to break through the lights and scripts and choreography, to remind everyone that these artists are still real people, capable of being shocked, touched, and overwhelmed. Jin's reaction was unfiltered. His stage composure gave way to authentic astonishment. And that vulnerability, captured on screens across the world, has now become one of the most talked about moments of the tour. What makes this moment even more significant is its setting. The O2 Arena in London is not just another concert venue. It's a global stage where history is made. And on that night, history was made, not by pyrotechnics or guest performances, but by a single unspoken glance shared across a sea of fans. Chris Martin didn't need a spotlight. He didn't need a microphone. His presence alone, silent and unannounced, changed the narrative of the night entirely. There are whispers now, unconfirmed but increasingly widespread, that this may not be the only appearance. Could Chris Martin appear again, this time with guitar in hand? Could Jin be preparing a musical moment no one is expecting? Or was this one quiet salute, destined to remain unexplained forever? No one knows. And perhaps that's the most powerful part of all, that in an era when every move is calculated, when every beat is scheduled, this was real.
Raw.
Unsponsored. A moment of truth in a world of production. And it was all sparked by one man, standing silently among the fans who didn't even know they were part of something extraordinary. As the lights dimmed and the final song faded into the roar of applause, Jin looked back into the crowd one last time. The binoculars were gone. The search was over. But the expression on his face lingered, something between gratitude, disbelief, and awe. The world may never get the full story behind what happened at the O2. There may never be a statement, a confirmation, or even a second chapter. But the moment lives on, in footage, in memories, and in the collective heartbeat of a fandom that now knows. Sometimes, the most powerful appearances are the ones that were never announced. And Jin? He'll never forget what he saw. Neither will we.